I would now like to invite Mr. Ralph Kachur, who is actually with us in person, which is very exciting. Um, but before I ask you to come here, I will do your introduction. Let me make sure the volume is okay. Mr. Ralph Kachur is the president of he leads initiatives for now with decades of experience in electronic component and technology innovation. He supports research that addresses the challenging focus on security, which safely open and emails and other data. So with that, I would like to welcome Mr. Kachur.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ralph. Yes, there is a word called Ralph, and it is my name. Welcome to ICAPMOT. I'm really, really honored to be here as a speaker to greet you wonderful folks. Many of you, I know, are very well educated PhD university professors, scientists. I happen to come from a higher level understanding of business. That is my background. I have a grade 11 education. And the reason I quit when I was in school in grade 11 is because I was suffering from PTSD from an abusive parental environment. I then married my wife at age 27. I went back to school to get my grades 11 and 12, and then proceeded to work in various types of jobs. And then I realized I wanted to be in electronics. Electronics was my world. And I tried to apply for all kinds of jobs, but IBM wouldn't hire me because I didn't have an education, as many of you do. I went around to electronic component distributors to look for a job. No one would hire me. I was overqualified as a salesperson, but underqualified because I didn't know anything about electronics. I went to the last electronic component distributor I was going to visit, and I said to him, likely you've got an idiot working in your shipping department. Why don't you fire him, hire me, and maybe I actually want to work through the electronic components industry from the bottom up. He said, you're right, he is an idiot. And he fired him. And then he said, you start Monday. Thursday, I got a phone call. The order desk guy quit. I then spent the next 30 years moving from order desk to outside sales, to technical sales, sales manager, project manager. And during my project management years over that 30 years, I supplied electronic components and technical support to 3 satellite projects. Not bad for a grade 11 dropout. During that time, I learned a lot about the business of business. Although my love was solving problems. Anytime for 30 years, beside my toilet rested a catalog learning about electronic components from various manufacturers, or a textbook to learn how the actual lower level functioning of those components worked. I then started helping my fellow salesmen with their technical problems and resolving problems and coming up with innovative ways to resolve those problems. And it became a bit of a joke around the office that, well, Ralph's on to another technology innovation. And taking those letters, they started calling me Mr. ROATI, ROATI. So 26 years ago, I purchased the domain name roati.com for $20 a year. I've been renewing it. And I use it for personal usage. A few years ago, when I made a significant computer discovery based on technologies I was exposed to in 2 of those satellite projects, I decided to federally incorporate my company here in Canada. And because I had a 5-letter domain name, I called myself ROATI Technologies Inc. And that's where that name came from. What did I do? Well, I've always been a solver of problems. And as I had retired, I was no longer involved in the technical work and the challenges of thinking new ways to get things done. So what I decided to do was to be able to transport a malware infected file from one computer and transfer it over to another computer that was totally in a separate location. I then spent probably 6 years working on the periphery of the discovery. It was going nowhere. And then when I was thinking about a particular satellite project that I worked on, and then I blended the second satellite I'd worked on, when I blended the two technologies, I realized what I had discovered was a new class of computer components, such that when a malware or clean digital file is presented to the input, the output is a non-digital, non-analog form of that data. Let me repeat that one more time. When a digital file has been opened and is presented to the input of that new class of computer components, I extract just the data and do not process the digital part of that file. That is the part where a lot of people find it hard to grasp. Just believe it or not, yes, I do not process the digital part of the file, which also contains possibly a malware or a digital defect, just the data. Now that I have that data in a new form, I then transport that data to a separate location in the computer known as a sandbox or sandbox container. I then insert that non-digital file information into a new digital file. Now we have two files. One, I don't know if it's infected or not because I don't need to detect it or encrypt it or VPN or AI or analytics on it, because I don't care if it's malware infected or not, because I have the data in a new file over here. This file is later deleted. Multiple processes involved, but is totally eradicated from the system. Now we've got a clean data file only, and it is processed in the normal digital method. The process to get support for me one day will be a subject of my book that I intend to write. It is totally hilarious on the level of people that I have spoken to who provide nice words of support and provide absolutely zero action. Nice words, no action. Kind of a common theme, especially in the world of innovation and the world in which you are involved with, I'm sure. So what did I do? I purchased the domain name nicewordsnoaction.com. Now, although I don't have the money to turn it or the knowledge to turn it into a meaningful social media website, one day I will, and I will make it available so that people can use my noaction.com website for the purposes of complaining. But if you make a complaint, you will not get published unless you also publish a resolve. So what we're looking for is action. We're looking to move forward. Yes, complain, provided action. That is one of the important things that I have found through the years, over 30 years in electronic components. My background for 20 of those years was selling vacuum tubes. Yes, vacuum tubes in the old radio television sets. We were not in microelectronics because the transistor actually replaced those old TV, radios, vacuum tubes that you're probably thinking about. What we were involved in were power electronics, particle accelerators, lasers, radar, where high voltage, high current applications were in common use. But in manufacturing vacuum tubes required certain core competencies. These core competencies were spun off into other proprietary, specialized electronic components. We had no competition. Well, no competition to speak of. Okay. However, when I was traveling across North America and speaking to various peoples, normally university, professorial, research, engineering institutes, I realized that in order for me to sell more of my products and my components, my customers needed to sell more of theirs. So what I did at night is I spent time with people at their places of residence, talking about and working with them on their discoveries, working on their marketing, on their business plan, on their business strategy, which is different from a business plan, accounting, legal, all these parts, all these people, most of these people that I spoke to were very knowledgeable on their science, had no idea about the business. So if in the event that you are not getting funded for your focused research, then you need to become a business person also. Let me say that one more time. Although you may be focused and very smart in your technology, you need to become a business person. Business person consists of several people with specific talents: science, legal, accounting, marketing, sales. All these are different categories that you need to become. If in the event you can't become those things, then you need to get consultation. You know yourself, your specialty, you feel good and you're glad to share your knowledge with other people to help you, to help them. It makes you feel good to help them, as it does me to help others. Then you go to someone else who is a specialist in marketing, legal, accounting, sales. That's where you need to become, is a business person. Part of becoming a business person and applying for these grants is a word called rejection. How many people enjoy being rejected and told, no, you're not going to get funded? When you know your discovery or the objective of your research is so critically important to the future. Here in Canada, we've got some very focused reasons why people are rejected, because what they're applying for is not the focus of that specific grant. That's a good reason. The other reason is stupidity of the person who is evaluating your application. A comma instead of a period, a dash instead of a question mark. Sorry, I can't help with stupidity. However, what you need to do is to be able to go back to them and reapply, because one of the big reasons that grants are rejected is because the person evaluating does not appreciate the significance or understand the importance of the work that you are doing. If they don't understand it, reject it, and your door is closed to support for your innovation. I've written an article in the Canadian military technology magazine Vanguard suggesting that the government form a new department. For the lack of a better name, let's call it the Department of Second Look. The purpose of the Department of Second Look is to take a second look at rejected funding applications, and also to take a look at funding applications that were rejected because they just don't qualify, but are significant enough for importance to our economies. For example, my discovery for malware secure computers needs funding in the area of $10,000 to $30,000. I don't have that kind of money. What it is basically to purchase custom electronic components. I've got a team of software people who will do the software work. I will do the hardware work because that's my specialty, is electronic components. I don't qualify for a variety of applications, and I've been rejected constantly. Now, the Department of Second Look would become overwhelmed with frivolous applications because everyone who's been rejected is going to make a second request to have a second look at it. So what the Department of Second Look needs is pre-qualified institutes to make application. Institutes such as economic development, business development, research institutes at universities and colleges, and certain private research institutes. By having these organizations pre-qualified, then the Department of Second Look can be presented with intelligent, properly prepared attempts to get the funding needed to bring our science forward. I hope that is of help to you folks in what you're doing and where you're going. Are there any questions? Matter of fact, why don't we just get you to take, where are the questions? I didn't, in my rush to get out the door this morning for this talk, I left my glasses at home. And unfortunately, when you get older, it's your corneas that get hard and it's your stomach that gets soft. So I apologize.
Thank you so much. That was so informative. All right, so the questions are, so wonderful talk, Mr. Kachur. Thank you for the insightful presentation. I have two quick questions. What are the most common malware threats that research institutions should be aware of today?
Malware effects. The effect is loss of data. The second is loss of money. Third is loss of credibility. So that's the malware part. The single, when originally I hypothesized a problem, malware. Then I researched how malware propagates throughout an electronic system. And let me give you a quick idea. You turn on a digital computer, which turns on a digital monitor, turns on a digital keyboard, turns on a digital mouse, that starts a digital program called an operating system, then opens another digital file called an email that then downloads another digital file. Digital, 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 digital. Malware has a solid line of digital methods to be created, propagate, spread, and execute its malicious intent, whatever it may be. I hope that's of help. By the way, if you want, feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my primary social media method of communicating. And my last name is spelled Kachur, just in case you can't read my name on the board in front of you.
All right. The other question is, what funding opportunities exist to support cybersecurity research in academic or startup environments?
The answer to that is I don't know. I have spent years going through websites, going to conferences, talking to government people. In here on our province of Ontario, we have a parliamentary system with various ministers responsible for various ministries. One of them was the Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction. I met him at a cyber conference for Canada-US cross-border cybersecurity. We were in the lineup of for the buffet, and he was wearing a turban. And I turned to him and I said, "Tusi Punjabi bolda?" For those that you don't speak Punjabi, I asked him, "Do you speak Punjabi?" And I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a white guy, and I don't really sound Punjabi. But right now, because I live in Brampton, which has got a very strong and really vibrant Punjabi community, I'm learning to speak Punjabi. And for those who do speak Punjabi, मैं समझदा मैं ठीक बोलदा par mubahat ne bolda. So I'm sorry, I wish I had the answer to you. But one of the things is, if the government had a Department of Second Look, the people that I've spoken to at economic development and business development know the significance of my discovery. Just think of it. Being able to open emails, web searches, and data files without having to worry about a malware intrusion. In addition to that, because of the way that the new class of computer components works, take my word for it, but it is virtually 100% impossible. Yes, many will say, no, it's not impossible. Yes, it is impossible because of the redesign of how it works. It is impossible for a malware to enter into the normal CPU, BIOS, RAM processing methods of my computers.
I have a question. When you were describing that, when you're taking the information from one file and then putting in the new, what exactly are you extracting from the file?
I won't tell you because I haven't got it patented. But let me try and describe it in the metaphoric way. You and me are data. I'm data, you're data. I'm a man, you're a woman, that's your attribute, my attribute. You got dark hair, I got lighter hair. Okay. Your body size, my body size are our attributes. And we want to go on to another, we want to take our data and send it to a hospital computer. So what we do is you and me get in a car, a file, and we travel along a road, the internet. And as we're traveling, we realize, oops, we need more gas. So we go to a gas station, more data. Unbeknownst to us, at the gas station, there's a trap door underneath the floor of the car. Someone comes up, attaches a bomb to the bottom of the gas tank, closes the trap door, and we drive along the internet or the highway with a bomb attached to the gas tank, the bomb being a malware. When we get to the parking lot of the hospital or the other computer's input, we normally open the door to get out. The bomb explodes, the malware executes its dangerous stuff, and it travels throughout the hospital. However, if that hospital computer was one of my computers, what happens is when we drive into the parking lot, the input of the computer, our computer looks at it and says, oh, it's that kind of car. And it sticks another car, exactly the same kind of car, beside ours. Rips open the top of the car, a crane comes up, picks up you and me, sticks us in the new car. The new car, or new file, goes into the computer. The old car, which has the bomb, is then disposed of.
That was a really helpful analogy, metaphor. Thank you. Okay, and then the last question is, how would the Department of Second Look help researchers whose proposals were rejected by the government?
If your request for a second look has been evaluated by a credible and accepted institute, then there is a high probability that the Department of Second Look needs to take a serious look at your work. If not, then good luck and go to your place of worship, because you're not going to get very much support unless your deity helps you.
Thank you so much for your talk.
I have one word to say.
Of course, please.
Let me end with this thought for you. Whatever you want to do, here's the important thing to do. Do it. Don't hesitate. Do it. If you go on a journey, know where you're going and make sure you take the first step in the correct direction. And to all of you, I most sincerely wish you all a happy, successful forever.